Okay, I'm going to record this even if no one logs in. Because I'm actually going to go over some of the skills that we learned. I will put a PowerPoint up later this week, mostly because I haven't done it yet. Sorry. Anyway, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually go over some of the skills that we learned this trimester. And let me turn off the transcript because it's annoying me. So what I'm going to do here is I've got the course website. Yeah, it's the correct course. And I am going to, let's open this because it's not cooperating very well. And of course, we have all the course stuff and the course profile and everything. But going into the course content, so we did a lot of theoretical stuff, which I'm not going to go over the theoretical stuff. What I'm going to do is go over the skills that you've learnt in this course. Well, hopefully that you've learnt. Well, I've marked all the assignments. Well, not the latest. And you seem to have learnt a lot of skills. So basically what we did is the course was divided into 2 modules. And the 2 modules were pretty much vector analysis and raster analysis. There wasn't quite as much stuff in the second half raster analysis because a lot of the techniques and skills that you learn in raster analysis is also done in vector analysis. So a lot of the things that you would have learned, such as coordinates and projections and editing attribute tables and symbology and creating layouts and all that sort of stuff, we did in the first half of the course. And normally in week 12, I give a summary of, you know, what we've done in the course. But pretty much this trimester, what we did is in week 6, we gave a summary of the vector analysis. And then for the raster analysis, I know I went over it quite a few times. So I don't think you need to have any more theory. What I want to do is I want to go over some of the stuff that we learned in the course and what we learned how to do. And I don't know if this, I should have run it through Collaborate because it's a lot easier this way. I'm not going to do this. I might just bring this up later as a discussion with some of you, hopefully that you will join in. So first of all, what I want to do is before I go over the skills, this is my, hello Angela, this is my second trimester of running the course. And with all university courses, we like to sort of adapt them as they go along. Hello, hopefully by input from you who are students. And so Angela, what I said I was going to do, I was going to do a quick summary of the what we did, the skills, not the theoretical stuff, because I've gone over in that lots of times and we've done the last mini quiz, it doesn't really matter. But what I want to do is go over some of the basic skills, not sort of like what we did and step by step, how to join tables and stuff like that, but just some of the stuff and how relevant it is in various different types of work, for example, because this is an undergraduate course. It doesn't aim to teach you sort of like complicated skills that you will need in, say, PhD studies or something. It aims to give you basic skills in GIS that you can use, that when you leave university, you can go into somewhere, whether it's a consultancy or whether it's a council, or whether it's a state government or whatever, that you will know how to do some basic GIS things. And I try to do it in a way that, like, there was vector analysis, and vector analysis is used more often in things like engineering or planning or construction, architecture, stuff like that. Whereas raster analysis is used more often in, say, marine science and ecology, environmental science. Anyway, so basically what we did is, and I'd also like to get feedback. I can do it. You can fill in the, you should all have the student surveys by now. So please, if you do have any suggestions, those are all anonymous, and there's hundreds of you in this course. Well, it's slightly exaggerated, but there's over 150. Please do comment on these, and so, like, what do you think? What do you think of the way, the order? Do you think it's useful? I mean, you know, you might not like the way I talk, which, I mean, you know, well, that's a subjective thing. And also bear in mind, of course, that a course such as this relies on quite a few different parts of the university to get working, such as like technical people to set up accounts, and also things that we have zero control about, like whether or not, hypothetically speaking, why whether or not Esri supports Macs, which it doesn't. That's beyond Griffith University's control, let alone the teaching staff. So what we do like to get feedback on is does the order of the courses make sense? Is the stuff we teach you useful? Would you like to see something else in future? I mean, a lot of people have actually asked me for more advanced GIS, and I would love to teach something like that, but I have put it to the school and the university, but I am a very junior academic and I don't really have much power to choose what the university does. But hopefully in future, and I think Chris is actually going to teach a remote sensing course. So I'm just going to get up quickly because I've got my doors open and I'm at home today and it's freezing. Okay. Cat is also sitting. I should actually put my camera on because I'm a cat. This is any one of you. So I'm not going to be on. So hence the Zoom. Okay, no, it's gone off. And I'm in my dressing gown too. I'll turn it off. Okay, so let's go over. So basically what we did, and I promise you I'll put slides up this week. The only reason I haven't put them up is because I didn't do any. And the reason I didn't do any is because I have another course and I was marking their assignments this weekend. And it involved presentations and long reports and stuff like this. It was quite intensive marking. Okay. So pretty much what we did is I'm going to start ArcGIS Pro. So in the beginning, what we did is we sort of introduced everyone to ArcGIS Pro. And I'm sure for most people, it was a bit of a big ask. Like, it was like a completely new software to many people. And also with ArcGIS, I'm opening ArcGIS, I'm just going to like close. No, I'll leave them both up. So basically what we did is we introduced ArcGIS Pro. We introduced the concept of signing into the ArcGIS accounts. And that is one big thing that I am going to change in T3 and going forward, hopefully in T1. I don't actually, my contract actually runs out in March, so hopefully in T1. Yeah, don't even get me into short-term don't even get me started on short-term contracts in the academic sector. But anyway, so basically, what we're definitely going to do in T3 and going into T1 next year is make the whole thing of logins and everything for ArcGIS Pro a lot easier, because the instructions were written by the IT people, and the IT people don't write in English, in my opinion. And I actually have worked in IT people. In IT, that sounds terrible. I've worked in IT, so yes, and I can say that. They don't write in English. So pretty much, and also there's a course that's going to be run starting in T2, in other words, in about 3 weeks' time, called 1024 ENG, even though it's mostly ESC. And that's going to be Introduction to Digital and Spatial Analysis, which will be run by yours truly, in other words, me. And it will not do ArcGIS Pro, but it will do ArcGIS Online. And we're going to introduce in that course, and it'll also be, I know it's a bit late for you, sorry, but we will introduce some things in this that course, and it'll be a prerequisite to the ArcGIS course. So this is going to be, and I mean, it's too late for you. I mean, actually, someone in my Gold Coast studio was doing this course. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to introduce different data. We're going to do ArcGIS. We're going to do a bit of QGIS and data visualization. So if you have time to do a data analytics course, feel free to do this course because it'll be fun. And it won't be ArcGIS Pro, even though we're going to do a bit of ArcGIS Online. So this is going to start in T2 this year. And from then on, what we're going to do is that will be a core course as a requirement for 2107. So people who've just joined us, I really, really want some feedback from you. We can do it now, or you can do it via the student surveys, or send me an email on, let me just go back into our course. So what I would love to have is some feedback from students as to how the course was laid out. Do you think it's useful? Do you want to be taught something else? Do you want an advanced course, etc.? Because whilst the university probably doesn't listen much to junior academics like me, they do listen to the students. And I've had a lot of requirements, and is the stuff, I tried to sort of make it as broad as possible with the assessment and whatever we did in order to sort of cover a range of different skills that are needed in various types of industry. I'm not teaching complicated stuff or stuff like R or Python or any of that sort of stuff, because this is an undergraduate course, and I want to teach stuff that is used, say, I mean, a lot of you may go on to honours or even PhD, but I want to teach stuff that if you finish this course, that you can go work for council, or you can go work for state government or consultancy or whatever, and you can actually say, oh, I know how to use ArcGIS Pro, I know how to do basic stuff like symbology or joining tables or selection and all that sort of stuff. So it's useful. And I also tried to do it in a way that the first half of the course was to do with vector analysis, which is mostly used in things like planning and architecture and construction and engineering and all that sort of stuff. And the second half of the course on raster stuff, which is mostly, well, it's more used in, say, ecological and marine science and stuff like that. Obviously, as you've seen throughout the course, that you can use both types of processing, and that's a very broad brush thing of different data analysis. And also the order of which I did things. The second half was probably not as much stuff as the first half, but that's just because a lot of the skills that we learned in the first half was we also used in the second half, so creating layouts, etc. And I would also like to do some sort of like mini modularized things on creating layouts. And I think Chris, hopefully, the university was talking about it, was going to do a course specifically on remote sensing, which would be awesome. I wonder if they'll let me attend that course, because Chris is like a total expert on remote sensing, and I'd love to learn some of the, more advanced skills that he has. I'm also going to, if I have 2 seconds time in the next year, do one of the edX mini MicroMasters course on advanced data visualization and Python and GIS. Anyway, if I ever get any time to do it. So basically what the skills we taught, and let's just go over some of the skills. So pretty much what we started is, we started sort of like by having an account to log into ArcGIS Pro and download the software onto our computers, or to work on the Griffith computers, or for some of you how to put it onto your Macs. And also I just wanted to just say, for those of you who've just joined us, please, when you are filling in the student service, I really, really want feedback from you, how we can improve the course, things that don't work too well, things that could be improved, but bear in mind that things that we actually have some control over. I and the teaching staff and the school and even the university have no control whatsoever whether or not Esri decides to make the program compatible with Macs. I don't even have enough control over the program to set up people's accounts for them. To be honest, I am actually going to try and get that permissions myself to do so, because I think it would work a lot more smoothly. And also the instructions, which I will write and not get the IT people to write, because they don't write in English. And I know I said that like before. Okay. Also, if you want some things, for example, if you're studying a subject for which the stuff I haven't introduced, which you think, well, what about some more stuff in, say, marine science? Now, I to be honest, I know very little about marine science. I once did 18 months of a PhD looking at salt marsh and mangrove ecology, but strictly speaking, that's not marine science, it's more estuarine ecology. But then if you do want me to do, I mean, for going forward, if you think it would be useful, then maybe you could sort of email me, help me add in an assignment, for example. That would be relevant to marine science, given my ignorance of the subject. Okay, so basically what we did is we started out, and I'll go back to the course website, and everything I did in the courses, I mean, there was obviously stuff I taught that was, tangentially relevant, but everything in the course was pretty much to do, well, the workshops, of course, was pretty much to do with actually being able to do your various assignments. And the assessments were done, I mean, your course website is not obviously going to look the same as mine because I am an editor. So there we had the online quizzes, and the online quizzes taught you, hopefully, and they were pretty easy, some of them. The stuff we did in the lectures, they were basically directly related to the lectures. Then we had the GIS Project 1, which was a vector project, and the GIS Project 2, which was a raster-based project. And then hopefully there was enough information there. And let's have a look here. So for example, there was the project. And this project was based on a project I did for City of Gold Coast. An actual project that I did as a consultancy project for City of Gold Coast. And I'll open that. And so, for example, everything we did there, I mean, obviously the one I did was slightly more, much more complicated, but pretty much the principle was the same. The City of Gold Coast strategic transport people wanted to have a look at the Gold Coast Council and assess the whether or not the concept of the 20-minute city around the city of Gold Coast. And basically what I did there is, I'll just open up my database, is I created points. So there were my final points. They were slightly different to the ones I gave you. And I created a whole range of different service areas around my final points. And I'll open up the attribute table and I will show them to you. So I had different categories. I had categories, I don't know how many categories I had. Let's symbolize them. So the first thing I did is, when we did open ArcGIS Pro, I showed you how to add data, and I showed you the first thing I always do when I add a new stuff is I look at the attribute table. I've only got a few things on this attribute table. I think I've hidden a whole lot of fields, and I look at what's on the attribute table. And then I very, very often, like I just did this now, I symbolize it. And then by symbolizing it, I can have an idea of what's on the table. Obviously, if ArcGIS Pro gives you an error message and says there are 25,000 different symbols, it's not a good idea to symbolize that attribute. I also introduced the concept of, let's open this one as well, the concept that I'm just going to close off the symbol. I introduced the concept, I haven't got this on the map, but I introduced the concept that ArcGIS Pro, whilst it is a spatial way to spatially show data, it is basically backed up by databases. And originally ArcGIS Pro data sets were something called DB4, which they probably still are for, I know. And that stands for database 4, and it's a way to save data. And everything in an attribute table had the columns are variables and the rows are data points. So here, for example, if I open the field thing, I can know, for example, the object ID, and the shape, which is a standard thing. The object ID is a unique thing. The shape says it's a point. Those are different types of data. Here's a whole lot of different things in the data type, and this is another really important thing to look at, the data type. So these are all text data. So if I tried to join two tables by, one was a text field and one was, say, a double, which is a type of numeric field, it wouldn't work, which is why you see I actually have the MB, which stands for mesh block, which is a small thing from the ABS, Australian Bureau of Statistics. I've actually created another field called code number, which is, it actually probably didn't need to be double, long would have sufficed. And then there's a whole lot of different long things, which are numeric data. And there's a whole lot of other things which are double. So it's really important to know the data type, because then it depends on various things. So for example, the data type there, which is an MB category, this is point data, I might just turn it on. If I decided to symbolize the data type of, say, MB category, not the code, let's just pop the category, you can see then it's got a range of different categories: commercial, education, other, blah, 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 blah. And these are point data, but this is actually derived from what's called the centroid of a polygon data set. I also obviously introduced the different types of vector data, being points, which are one-dimensional, lines, which are two-dimensional, and polygons, which they're not really three-dimensional. Well, they are sort of. Anyway, so there, all of these there. So I can symbolize, for example, the category by unique values, or I can't symbolize the category by unique numbers because it's just gibberish. But what I can do is I can symbolize any of the numeric numbers. So let's just do combined public transport weekend. And there I have symbolized that by combined public transport. So to explain this data set, which I did slightly different to how we did it, I created, so for each of my points, I created 4 different, or actually I created more than 4. So let's just save this. Let's just pop in just to make, show you what I meant. So of all of those, I created services. I'm going to turn off the points just because it's too confusing. So I created around all my fresh food points. I created, they were just single lines because I dissolved them, a polygon of 1600 meters and a polygon of 800 meters for walking. So you can see also what I'm doing is select by attributes. I also created polygons of single 20-minute to the point of public transport on weekends, because those GTFS tables I showed you also had, you could do it by date and time. I also then created single 20-minute polygons of a generic weekday. I can actually see a mistake in this data set. Can you see this? There's actually no public transport around there, so there's a mistake there. Never mind the mistake. Interesting. Okay. I like to look at stuff like this because you can see mistakes. And the reason why I'm telling you there's a mistake there is because if I pop over the transport, this is high frequency routes, this is the transport network shapes. And if I drag this over the top, let's just pop it over the layers here. And if I drag it over the top, you can see that there is a thing, and it's actually somewhere over the Gold Coast, and it's showing as a public transport thing, which is actually incorrect. So there we go. It's a good way of also, so remember what I also said is, and this is something I've sort of spoken about, and my coffee's gone cold too, so just excuse me having a quick drink of it. It was disgusting. Thank God I drink black coffee because cold. Oh, shapes. Why did I even put that one? I don't want that one. Okay, so you can see there's the public transport network shape. So I also introduced the concept of using symbology and attribute tables and looking at your data to find mistakes. Now, and if you remember the first assignment, I had a whole points thing, and some of them were outside the borders of the Gold Coast, and some of them were, that's the mistake, that's why. Can you see there? It's actually, around there, and it's incorporated, and also introducing the concept of using symbology and looking at your attribute tables to find mistakes in your data, because even the best data set, the most sort of rigorous data set from a point of truth data set like Queensland Spatial Catalogue, etc., probably still has mistakes. And I had a very, very boring job once for about 6 months looking at what's called the digital cadastral database, which is the property boundaries, and looking for mistakes in it. I quite like actually data analysis. Well, it's not even data analysis, data cleaning, and the concept of garbage in, garbage out. So then if I looked at this, I'll just take off this, and then I also created a 5,000 meter cycling polygon and a 3,000 meter cycling polygon. The reason for these dates is they come from transport research to show that it's more or less equivalent to the average. Oops, earth did I do there? I grouped it. I don't want to group there. Let's just remove the whole lot. They're more or less a 20-minute walk, cycle, or public transport trip. I didn't actually originally do 3,000 meters. I think I had 6,000 meters or something, but Gold Coast Council wanted 3,000 meters. And then for each of my points, what I did, I'm just going to turn this off, and there's a lot of points here. And if I just open the attribute table, let's see if it's the correct one. No, it's not the correct one. It's the summarized one. Let's remove this. So I also created a point layer. Let's just pop this on. It's a huge data set. Oh, I edited it, sorry. Okay, now this is my edited one. You see, name things that make sense. Oh, no. Name things that make sense. Anyway, I think I edited it because it was a giant data set and it kept crashing my computer. So basically, I'll just open up the summary. For each of the different things I intersected the different points of, not of the points of the things, but the points of, just pop this on there. Aha, okay, I knew I'd find it somewhere. Sorry. Let's open this up. So basically what I did is for each cadastral thing, which is a lot, I just created a center point, a centroid of a point. That's just the center of the polygon. And then I intersected each of the ones of those things that were within school 400 is incorrect. It's actually school 1600. Of what was any of those points that were within 800 meters of that service area. So let's just pop a service area on, and we'll pop a service area. Let's do public transport because it's easier. We'll just put public transport on. And the public transport on, all I did was a very, very simple select by attributes. This one here, that intersect, no, not select by attributes, sorry. Select by location, I'm getting ahead of myself. So I did select by location, I did all points that intersected with, say, Fresh Food PT. Hope I selected the right layer. And you can see there, if I go right the way over to Fresh Food PT, which is hiding around somewhere in this is my original thing, I should take it to final layers. And you can see there that if I go into the selection here, I go over right the way, that's why I haven't got this table open because it's gymongous. So Fresh Food PT, there we go here. So then all I did for this is I right-clicked on it and I calculated field, I'm not going to do it now, and I gave all of those 1. If I zoom out a bit, you can see there that there are a whole lot selected. And then if I put Fresh Food PT over that, you can see that it actually fits in quite well with and made it a bit transparent. Put it over it, changed the appearance, made it a bit transparent. And you can see there that, for example, if I zoom right in, you can see that these are all the points that are within that polygon. And I did that for all of them, which took quite a lot of time. And then I redid it all last week because I wasn't happy. And you also discovered probably in your work that you do things a lot of different times. Anyway, then what I got is I got all of those scores and I summarized them. And I summarized all of my different 5 layers. 800 meters, 1600 meters, 3 kilometers, 5 kilometers, public transport, weekend. And if I just symbolize the points over, for example, combined public transport weekend, you can see there, and I've also got one that's actually also, that is also, I merged it with the mesh block, so I also have polygons that show the same thing. And I also told you, which I obviously have not paid any attention to myself. Oh, there we go. I think that might work. And if I look at the scores polygon final and I look at the attribute table, and you can see that this all I've done is mesh this with a mesh block, so I could then do the same thing, look at the data, symbolize it. Let's symbolize it by, so I didn't really convert this to rasters except for my maps. Let's symbolize this by graduated colors. We'll symbolize it by, I don't know, let's just do combined 800K. And you can see there, if I look at the areas that are combined within 1600 meters, and you can see there that this is actually based on mesh blocks, or maybe it's SA1, I don't know, but I could also aggregate it by, say, SA2. And I could do exactly what we did in our second thing, is I could look at this and then I could go into analysis and I can say, okay, let's summarize attributes. Do this in the polygon, but I'll just, you know, because we did this already, and I could say summarize attributes. Let's pop in the, what did I call it? Scores polygon final output table, and let's look at the fields of, I don't know, let's do combined 600K. Actually, no, sorry, we need it. Let's summarize it by SA2. Do we want to summarize it by something else? No, that'll do. And then for summary fields, let's just pop in all of our combined fields. And we could summarize all of our combined fields. And for this, we're probably being its numeric data, and let's just do it properly. We would then probably do a mean for that because it is more accurate statistically. So you can see all the sort of stuff I'm doing now is this is the stuff I actually did for the Gold Coast City Council. And I'll run this, and then by SA2, what it will do is it'll produce a summary table, just the same as we did in the second part of the assignment. Oh, good, cool coffee is disgusting, and it's creating a summary table. And it has created a summary table, and let's just like untick this. And what we can do with our summary table now is I'll just double check it and see if it's okay, because it may not be. So I'm just doing this. So there is the mean of all the different things, and we could also add another column to say mean all. But obviously, for obvious reasons, which you, I promise you this is an obvious reason, but you would not add, for example, the 800 and 1600, for example. You would add the 1600, the 5K, and maybe the PT, because if you add the 800 and 1600, it's going to be biased, because all of this 1800 actually all in the 1600. But then I can actually, and this is what we did in the second part of the course. I can go on like 2 hours on this, but Teams is going to crash me out. Maybe I'll do another. No, I'll be overseas next week. So I could then create a bar chart on this. I mean, I wouldn't do an ArcGIS, like ArcGIS charts are exported to Excel. But what we could do is we can chuck in the series of SA2 name, and we can chuck in a numeric field of, let's just put in, I would do a line chart for this, not a bar chart. Well, let's just do a bar chart. Okay, let's just pop in that, go apply. And we could, yeah, that's because it's on a, we don't want it in it. Let's just delete this because you don't want it. Let's just pop in a line chart, because that's not the sort of chart you would do for this sort of data. Let's pop in a line chart. You could do a histogram or something. Oh, let's just pop in, let's visualize it by, let's do the 1600K. Let's split it by SA2 name. Oops, doing this wrong. That is why I would just ignore all of that. No. Aggregation, you shouldn't do means of means, it's bad. And yeah, blah, 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 blah. Okay, sorry, stats people, I'm doing this in real time and I'm stuffing it up. Okay, but what I would actually do for this is because I'm lazy and it's easier in Excel, is I would just pop it all into an Excel. Let's just do a random bar chart. Okay. Sorry, I shouldn't do things in real time without thinking. And let's just chuck in categories, SA2 name. Let's ignore the aggregation, chuck in all of these, blah, 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 because we don't really want this. And then what we would do is go export. And I would export it to Excel. You can also actually export the table itself, and you would actually say it was Excel and do it that way, because I like to use Excel. But there you could actually then, you could also then link it back And I'll show you what I'm going to do here. And this is something we also did. Let's just get rid of that revolting chart. What we can also do, and this is another thing, you can see it's got the SA2 name. What you can do is you can see if I look at the attribute table of this, it's got an SA2 name. So what we can do is, and we did this in the first part of the thing, is I can join this. Where's it hiding? Joins and relates. I can add join. There's my input table. My input join field is SA2 name. My join table is my, where's it hiding? What did I call it? Scores, polygon, final, summarize attributes. I'm going to go OK. And you can do this on your table anyway, and it didn't work. That's why it's difficult joining things. Okay, so apart from me doing things, you can just do it via the symbology anyway. That's because I'm trying to do things in real time. I'm going to do some magnificent slides for you, which I will put up. Maybe this afternoon if I finish marking my other course. But anyway, we showed how to join things. We also showed, that sometimes when you do things in ArcGIS Pro is that it doesn't work. And the main reason it doesn't work is because you look at the attribute table, you look at the way it is, you look at what the field is. So there, for example, this my SA2 name there is a text field, and this theoretically should be a text field too. And what is my SA2 name? It's also a text field, but look, aha, now I have seen why the mistake came out. Can you see what ArcGIS Pro in the summarize attributes has done? Which is why it didn't work. And you have to do this sort of data cleaning all the time. And data cleaning, no matter how you do it, and after any, and that's why I calculated the attributes over and over again. Look what it's done to the length of my text field. So what I would normally do in a situation like this, create another field, I would make it text. I'll do it the standard 255. I would close it. Then I would go all the way into the right-hand calculate field. And what I'm going to do for my calculate field, I'm just going to double click on this one. And all this will do will populate the new field with that. And then what I'm going to do, and if I click on this, you can see here it is only 255, and then I will right click this one and delete it because it is bizarre and weird. Oh, anyway, it's not going to do it, but oh, well, let me do it anyway, so who cares? And then you can sometimes, if you just want to be picky like me, you can pop that up there. And then if you wanted to join that again, first of all, you would get rid of the previous join because it was terrible. And I would look at my fields. Let's look at my fields there. Let's look at the fields of this. Let's open the attribute table. So quite often what you see, oh, go away. I've done something to it. Anyway, so you can also see here that even if you do things over and over again, that quite often, more often than not, ArcGIS Pro will stuff it up some way or other. And you will also find out that ArcGIS Pro, you can do things in many, many different ways. So let's just remove that. Hopefully I haven't stuffed it up totally. Well, it doesn't actually matter because I have saved this geodatabase somewhere else. I also mentioned, you know, how to make geodatabases default, how to keep everything in the same, let's just remove that, keep everything in the same location, how to name things that make sense, and I showed everyone how to do things by normally using bad examples of my own ways of doing things. So basically, so all of the stuff is really useful. So let's just, for example, so say I want to open the attribute table of this, and I haven't stuffed it up totally. I have the attribute table, and let's say I want to select all points that are categorized as residential. I can do it this way. I can click on the table itself, and I can go select all MBCat is equal to residential, and it will select all of those there. I can also go into the map tab. I can go select for attributes, and it comes up as exactly the same thing. Select all things. I can also right click on the layer, and I can go selection, and I can select all visible features and I can edit the selection further that way. I can also go into, let's just open the attribute table, in the table itself. So if I go into the table, I can do selections and all sorts of stuff there. And one of the most useful things that I'm not too sure if I actually got around to teaching you, but it's very useful, apart from doing it as a chart, I can go into this table, I can click on export table, and I can export it as a geodatabase table and I can share it somewhere else. Or I can export it as Excel. And of course, you do that in a different way. You export it via this way. It's pain. In the old thing, it was much easier. And then I can also symbolize that and join it, though I stuffed up it. And it's now corrupted my table, so I'm going to have to get it back from where I saved the original because I was doing things in real time. Okay, so there was a lot of stuff we did. Select by attributes and select by locations are some of the most important things that you can do. So if I, for example, let's just do a quick select by location, we'll pop on transport. I can select all, let's just do a quick select by location. We'll just pop in the network shape, select all network shapes that intersect with that one, for example, not the other way around. I don't have it. And whilst it's about it, it's actually selecting all shapes that are intersecting with the points. Should have done by Gold Coast, would have been quicker. Okay, but in the meantime, so that's basically, and then from this, I created a final geodatabase, which the Gold Coast City Council has then used to map the public transport and accessibility of various places around the city of the Gold Coast. Now these criteria that I created, you know, the primary schools, the fresh food, the medical facilities and all that stuff, these are not my criteria. These are criteria that the city of Gold Coast gave me and that are standard criteria that are used in transport modeling. And I have this turned off, so it wouldn't work. But if I turn that back on again, and I put it over to the top, you would see that it's actually selected. Let's just clear it off. So if I then, I'm actually going to turn this off and not save it because goodness only knows what I've done to it. And then I don't want to save it because I've stuffed it up somehow and I don't actually want it to save all of this stuff. So in the projects, for example, as then we went back into, and I've deleted the first assignment. So this project that I did for the city of Gold Coast was actually directly related, even though I did it sort of slightly different. And you know, the one I did was a lot more complicated, but it's pretty much the same thing. So then in the second part of the assignment, what we did, the second part of the course, is I introduced you to, and we did it in the first part too. Let's just go, I'll open up the course website again. We introduced to raster analysis. I also introduced various sources of GIS data. So, and one of these, of course, is like things like vector data, Queensland Spatial Catalogue. So you can mostly vector data. You can go into the Queensland Spatial Catalogue. You can download all sorts of data and a number of different data sources. I find new data sources every day, which is incredibly frustrating because I have just discovered, and every time I find a new data source, I want that data source and then I want to do stuff. But we also introduced EO Browser, and I love EO Browser. And EO Browser is, you can see all the different types of satellites there. And you can get satellite data under various themes. For example, I don't know, this is Italy, so let's just do urban. We'll just randomly chuck in. And you can see, let's just do that one. Okay, there we go there. And you can look at the different themes, for example, for urban. And let's just zoom into Rome. Worst drivers in the known universe, by the way. Even worse than South Africa, where I lived for 20 years. Not worse, they're just terrifying. Okay, there's different classifications according to the theme of your satellite and I also introduced how you can actually download this data and you can look at the different spatial indices of the data. And then you can open it in ArcGIS Pro. And let's just turn this raster off. is you can also go into your map and you can add data by going into, you need to be logged in, we don't have to, but it's ideally, you can go into ArcGIS Pro or Living Atlas and you can search for any old data. Let's just do, I don't know, bush, oh, they don't call it bushfire else in the world, let's call it something, volcanoes. Is it ES? Don't know. US current wildfires, or MODIS is cool. Let's just pop in thermal hotspots and we'll go there. And obviously it's not going to show on this map and it takes a bit of a while to, and we'll just right click and we'll go zoom to layer. And obviously it's not in Australia, but there, oh, there's some in Australia. Oh, good. So this is thermal hotspots. And if I look at the attribute table, hopefully this data set's got an attribute table. Not all online data sets have got attribute tables. And you can look at, that's the first thing I always do is look at the attribute table and see if there's anything in this attribute table that I can use to see what's in the data. Now I can see, I don't know this data. Does it have any metadata? I have no idea. Let's have a look. View metadata. It might have metadata. It's got some metadata. Nope. No, it doesn't. So I can have a look at this and I think brightness. Let's have a look at brightness. And let's just like symbolize this by brightness. It's obviously a numeric data thing, or you can just hold something over it and see it's double. So you can also, as you can see, you can just highlight the top of it. And let's just do it by brightness. And we'll symbolize it by brightness. And then if you look here, I have no idea what it is, to be honest. Let's go over somewhere where there probably would be fires at this time of year. So a whole lot of, it's interesting looking around there. Or you can actually find all sorts of other stuff. Let's remove that and you can go into add data and you can find all sorts of data that is, you can look at Living Atlas, and Living Atlas is more ecological data. Let's look at, I don't know, anything might be relevant to Living Atlas. Seagrass abundance. Don't know, you can drag it across and see where the layer comes from. Well, that doesn't help, does it? Let's have a look here, see where it comes from. That's from ArcGIS. It should federal, so it's probably essential fish habitat. Let's just go OK and see if anything loads. And you can actually look, oh, lovely. Oh, that's cool. OK. You see, that's what I'm trying to tell you is I find new data all the time. And OK, well, obviously it's there. And you can see there also the map is properties and it's it's set on the coordinate system of GDA. So let's just chuck it into WGS. And we did coordinate systems, of course. And now because it's WGS. And the reason, like, you might immediately look at that original one where I added and say, well, why can't I see the United States when it's United States data? And the reason is because I'm just using your student map to show you is I had that set to GDA, which is pretty much there. And you can see the tiny little point there. And so you can see this in some of the data, it has attribute tables, some of the data you can symbolize, some of the data you can export it to your own thing, and some of the data, let's just show you one more thing because I'm getting distracted. I'm not too sure whether this is in the portal or ArcGIS Online, but let's just do it in ArcGIS Online. And if I don't crash my computer, this is called GBAM. It's a really cool data set. It's about fires. Let's have a look at GBAM. Oh yeah, I just remembered another reason why I didn't do more work this weekend is because I managed to wangle myself a booster vaccine because I'm going to South Africa in just over a week's time, and they wouldn't give me one because they said I wasn't qualified. So there's GBAM. Now GBAM is quite a useful thing, and if you look at it, this is the fire severity database. Now you can actually put this on your map if you want to, if you haven't done your maps yet. And this is high, very high, etc. And you can see it's almost exactly the same. In fact, it is. It's identical to the fire scars I gave you. It decides to load. I've got way too much stuff on the slide. Oh, hello! Just load map. Okay, it's too slow. I've crashed it. I crash my ArcGIS all the time. And in fact, you might think that I crash ArcGIS Pro a lot of times, but I actually don't, because ArcView used to crash way more often. And it's a hugely intensive program. So what you also have, which I introduced you to as well, and I'm just sort of broadly going over every single possible thing. ArcGIS Pro has, I don't even know if there's hundreds or even thousands of tools. And if I clicked on each single tool, and each single tool, you can see that there's lots and lots and lots and lots of them. Like some of them I have never used a single one of these. Like I have no idea about, I wonder if there's any students in this course who are studying aviation. I know we teach it. So I would use conversion tools, for example, and they seem to add, oh wow, that's so cool. It would be cool if you could get that data. You can if you pay for it. And there's all sorts of different tools that you can do. And a lot of these tools, to be honest, I never use. And you can also find tools on the portal, which to be honest, I didn't actually know until now. And there's so many different tools that you can use. And they're all extreme. And you can even go, and we didn't do this at all, but if you go into analysis, you can write your own Python script, your own Python network. It's actually not as difficult as it seems. You can do model builder. And you can add various tools, and in Model Builder, what you can do is you can add tools and you can create different model builders. So say I decided to, oh God, let's just like select. I won't go too far, but you can add, say, like a select, and you can then create a model. And then from that model, you can run the model. And then the model will do all your calculation for you, and it'll like batch stuff and all that sort of stuff. So you don't have to do it. Well, I mean, you obviously do have to do it, but it can go quicker. So that's like an advanced, oh, I'd love to teach that. I'd have to go do my online master's course through, where was it this time? MIT or something. So I was going to do it. I don't know when I'll ever have time to do that. But anyway, I will try and do that. And you can also see there's other tools that have come up there. And then we introduced the concept of classifying rasters. So we classify rasters using very, very basic classification. And though go through the imagery, and there's various different classification tools. And then also the different things about the different things. And then, of course, we also introduced, ta-da, layouts. I double click on a layout. I recommend with layouts is that you create your own layouts that you like. So this is just one I created, I think, for one of the online workshops. And this is just a layout I created. So I added in an extent rectangle, I added in my thing, I added in my legend, all the blah, blah, blah. So if you zoom in, it's got all this TOSLAD stuff. Now, a lot of people in the first assignment lost points because they left out important things like the service layer credits or who they did it and the date, and left out just random, I don't know, random empty text boxes or stuff. I also recommend that when you do a layout, that you don't put things onto your map real estate. Sometimes I put the arrow there. So I know it seems sometimes like easier to chuck your legend, you know, move your map over to that side, for example, and draw in a legend there, but it's sort of messy. So what I recommend is that if you don't have enough real estate for your legend, you can always sort of make your scale slightly smaller. And that scale looks very weird. I'm sure it's wrong. Oh, that's because I've clicked on this one. That's why it looks weird. If I clicked on this one, you can see how the scale changes according to which map thing is. I also recommend that any sort of rectangle on your layout that you actually give a name, which means then you can go into your drawing order and you can choose them appropriately. So there's my coordinates and there's my credits and author. There's my map title, rectangle, etc. So I can easily click on instead of having to click on it. So there's there. So I also recommend that with layouts, set up a layout you like. And once you've set up a layout you like, what you can do is you can click on share. You can export a layout, not this way because that creates but you can export it as, why is it not showing? It's not showing properly. You've got to click on the layout. Oh, it's a pain. You can export it. You've got to click on the layout to do it. You can export layout file and you can save it in some higher level thing as good layout template or layout template I like this week and haven't wanted to change yet. And that means you can then apply that layout, or you can just go there, import, And then you can navigate to where you might have saved it. So there's the actual one I actually saved. So that's really useful. It's a useful stuff because then it saves you having to do all the fiddly stuff because it's really fiddly and horrible. You can add all sorts of other things to your layout if you want. You can add Excel charts and images and every single other thing you choose to do. You can actually also do, you can add hyperlinks and stuff as well. So say you export your layout to PDF, for example, you can actually then pop in a hyperlink, and that hyperlink would lead you to a website, for example, something like that. You can add all sorts of different data, and in the toolbox, if I go back into the map, in the toolbox, you can convert all sorts of different data into different GIS types of things. That's not going to show because it's over there, so I'd have to drag it there. And you could do this if you wanted to do as well with your maps, if you haven't done them already. And where you can find data, all sorts of different data. So I gave you lots and lots of extra data. I actually deleted all the ones that were duplicates, so you could put core koala habitat and how to clip it. Let's just do a quick clipping because clipping's fun. So say I wanted this core koala habitat, I could decide it was too big, and let's just clip it to Saraba, and we'll just run it, and then it'll create a clip over that. The koala habitat's not that big. So there's one's just there, or I could just sort of go back there and I could clip. I could go onto there, chuck on. I could then pop on like one of the ones which is quite big, like the VMA, and it's way too big. So I could then clip that to Saraba. Just clip the VMA to Saraba. You see, it's pretty basic. That's what I'm doing. I have no idea where I've even saved it. I'm just doing it sort of in real time to show you. I right click, remove, and then I can also go into the attribute table of this. And I can say, well, I don't want all of this stuff. So let's go into the table. Let's go into the fields. And I couldn't care less about any of the stuff. So I could either hide it or just delete it. I mean, I don't really want to delete this, to be honest, but let's go there. I might want the land zone, BD status, VM class, VM poly, I'd leave that. Couldn't care less about that. BVG is quite useful. That stands for broad vegetation groups, by the way. So I might delete all of this. There's so much rubbish of all of this, except I do know what this in this data set. In some of this, let's just delete these to start off with. So I can then delete some of these rows off there. So there's the RE label. I don't want that, but I'm not too sure what to do. So I can also right click and hide it. Land zone's quite useful. VM class, version, couldn't care less about version. So I can also right click on that and delete it. BVG 1 meter. I have no idea what that is. And you can see there's various different things. All of I couldn't care less about the source. So you can see there, you can also go onto that and you can delete things, or if you don't necessarily know that you don't want to delete it or not, you can then just go untick and hide them because you might want to keep that. Sometimes what I do is I make a copy of it and I just I would then, this is a copy obviously because it's a clip, and I would then just edit the table. Don't know what that is. And the good thing with these data is you can always go, I don't know what that is. Let's just hide it because I don't know what it is. And if there's no data on it, you can always go back. And I also, another thing I always redo is I recalculate the area, because as soon as you do any analysis like clipping or whatever, it almost always stuffs up your area. So that's called area hectares. Let's see if it's not right only. We just do area hectare. I prefer geodesic. Let's just make it hectares. Coordinate system. Oh no, same as the map. Oh no, I changed it to web. Let's make it to GD8 2020. And I would recalculate the area hectare. It may very well be the same. You can see it isn't. Because it always stuffs it up, and you can see that they actually shape area and everything. So then I could actually, for example, symbolize the VMA by not geoprocessing. So always what I do is I look at the attribute table, I look at, and then I would say if I'm not 100% sure what the attribute table is, let's just pop in a quick symbology. So we could, for example, do unique values on, I do know what this table is, but because I used to use it. So this stands for endangered dominant, endangered subdominant, least concern, and then non-remnant and plantation. It always makes, and then you could actually, this is the incorrect symbology for this thing, and then you can actually symbolize it, or you could click on the 2 endangered, like in the middle thing, and go group. Click on the 2 of concern and go group. And then you could, for example, symbolize those together. And then you can also change, edit the field thing, so I could change it and just call it endangered. Used to be called not of concern, but people got confused with it and they thought it wasn't important. It's just a thing. And then of concern. Then, for example, I can go there, there's endangered, and I know this, the actual color they use for that is a sort of purple side. The least concern used to be this green, they've actually changed it, I see recently, and the of concern, I can't remember what color it is. And there, for example, if I look at that, let's just get rid of that, and you can see there. So if I put the GBAM over the top, you can see, for example, there is the fire. I don't know what date is this, 2017. It's also important to look at the metadata and everything and look at it. And now we have actually sort of run out of time, and I could keep going forever and ever and ever, but Teams has freaked me out. I should have given you a 2 hour. So pretty much, thank you so much, everybody. I will actually put up some slides of this, which will be much more organized and things will work. And please, yeah, it's been awesome teaching you. Please fill in the student surveys or email me directly or pop in something into Teams. Do you like how the course is? Do you think it's been useful? What would you like? What do you think I missed out on learning? Did everything make sense? Do you think it'd be useful to you? Is there anything else you'd like to do, like an advanced course? Because I'd love to teach an advanced course. Yeah, the only thing is just Esri doesn't support Max. If I had any power over what Esri does, I would tell all my legions of programmers to please make it support Max, but unfortunately I have no control over Esri, and I love GIS. So thank you very much, everyone. It's been awesome teaching you. I like Windows Medicine. I like Windows because you can, thank you so much, Christopher. I like Windows because they're much more editable than, you can do much more stuff with Windows. Linux's works well. I mean, but I love ArcGIS Pro, but I also do stuff in QGIS as well. And as I discovered, I don't know if any of you, I can't remember if I did this, I think I did an online lecture last week, but I discovered that visualizing point cloud data, which is LiDAR, is so much easier in QGIS than it is in ArcGIS Pro. So when I get point cloud data, I am totally going to use QGIS and not ArcGIS Pro. Thank you so much, everyone. Anyone wants extensions, please put it through the system because we are quite constrained with time over the end of the trimester. I will be overseas, but I will be marking things while I'm overseas. Not the first week, though, because I will be visiting a really interesting game reserve and archaeological site in South Africa, which I know there's no mobile reception. Thank you so much, everyone. It's been totally awesome. I love the course. I love GIS, and I hope you also learn to love it a little bit. Thank you very much. Okay, I'll pop up the recording. I'll also put up some slides too. I actually have to go back and mark my other course presentations they did last week because I've got to give them feedback before their final assignment. But thank you very much, and I promise you I will put up some slides. If not today, then tomorrow or Wednesday. Okay, thanks a lot, everyone. Thank you. Bye. I'm going to stop recording. I hope I was recording. Yes, I was. Good.